What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another weather forecast here by Angel Weather Forecast. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the potential for the multi-day severe weather event here for portions of the plains, including as far as the Minnesota area to the Texas Panhandle. So we're keeping an eye on this. We don't have a huge enhanced risk or moderate, but we are still continuing to maintain a potential for maybe a couple spotty tornadoes, very large hail, and damaging winds. Before we get in the video, please hit the post notification icon so you get notified as soon as I post a video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to show your awesome and amazing support. And also, hit the big like button so I know you like videos like these so I can continue to do them so you become weather aware for severe weather events. But before we get in the video, obviously do all three of those and that would be awesome. But now let's get and take a look at the National Weather Service. Here we are taking a look at the National Weather Service. As you tell, we don't really have any severe things from watches or warnings. We do have a couple spotty warnings throughout portions of the not the mid-Atlantic, the New England area, including areas near Springfield, Massachusetts. We do have a couple spotty storms right there. Really not a huge threat. As you see, we are just seeing maybe semi-discrete systems, but here you have Springfield, Massachusetts right there, including portions of far north central Connecticut. And that's really it for now. But today's threat is going to be maintaining for portions of the Ozark Mountain region and portion of the Midwest and South Central. So we do have a pretty widespread severe weather threat today. Expect a couple maybe spotty tornadoes. We only have a 2% chance as of now, but I really expect this huge wind probability with that low-level jet bringing a very strong amount of wind shear there. But as you see, we do actually have a lot of heat advisories and excessive heat warnings. This is not severe weather related, but this is actually increasing the CAPE values, obviously. So that's exactly why I'm talking about this. This heat and humidity will increase the CAPE values, which will make it more favorable for potential severe weather in the South Central. So that actually means we can maybe have this April and May pattern back to where we have most of the severe weather entering the South Central once again. So Texas Panhandle, portions of Oklahoma and Kansas, you guys want to be on the lookout for potential severe weather within the next coming days. Now let's go and take a look at the day one outlook. Alright, so today, like I said, we are going to be seeing the South Central Plains and portions of the Midwest. That's where we're going to be seeing that most of the severe weather today. We do actually have 4.5 million people under the slight risk here, so that's actually a pretty widespread risk here. So as you see, Wisconsin, Minnesota, portions of Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, you guys are in that one section there for a slight risk. And then we have Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and northern Texas there as well for that severe weather right there as well. So we do have some spotty areas for potential severe weather throughout today, which is a level 2 slight risk. So we aren't expecting a huge probability for tornadoes, wind, and hail. But speaking of those probabilities, as you see, tornado probabilities only in the Midwest for Des Moines, Rochester, Waterloo, Eau Claire, and Ames, Iowa there. So let's go and check that out. So here is now the wind probability here. So we are going to be seeing up to a 15% chance for winds. So obviously we can be seeing maybe 60 plus knots likely with these strong thunderstorms. Could be seeing some nice linear storms across the Iowa region. And then we can possibly have some nice supercells likely for portions of the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, and the general South Central Plains. So the reason why the probability for tornadoes isn't super high, even though we could be seeing supercells, is because obviously you can have supercells that don't bring in tornadoes. So we can have supercells or mesocyclones that don't bring in tide rotation and all of that. But if we were to see like some really nice and really a PDS tornado ahead of time then on the photograph, then it'll be completely different there. But as you see, 15% chance for the region of the South Central and out there for portions of the Midwest. So that's exactly why we do have that slight risk. It is because of the wind probability. So like I said, tornado probability quite low, but that's including around 4.5 million people under that 15% chance. And then we have 22 million people under a 5% chance for winds, including Boston. Like I said, they do have a pretty decent severe weather threat up to a marginal. And then that wind is including Boston, Kansas City, Omaha, Colorado Springs, and Minneapolis. Hail probability, also the same thing, 15% chance. So like I said, today is not going to be a huge threat as for severe weather-wise. but we still have a slight risk and still seeing some spotty hail when reports. In my opinion, I think the wind will be the biggest probability or the biggest threat, with hail just behind it. And obviously, with that 2% chance behind it, all of those is the tornado probability. So 15% chance, including Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Rochester, just south of Minneapolis, including St. Joseph, Waterloo, and also Des Moines. And then that 5% chances, including around 12 million people, Kansas City, Omaha, Colorado, Minneapolis, and Wichita. So really, we could be seeing a range from maybe quarter-sized hail to maybe slightly up to baseball-sized hail. So we're not going to rule out the possibility for some really significant hail. It's not going to be widespread enough to have a little dot for 30% chance. So that 15% chance just means the probability over 2-inch sized hail of diameter. Let's go and check out now the day 2 outlook. So like I said, this is going to be a multi-day threat for severe weather. So we do actually have 2 sections for a slight risk tomorrow as well. One for the southern Midwest. If you kind of consider Missouri as the Midwest, which many people do, so this will be including the Midwest and also the tip of Iowa and portions of Illinois. So also another area for severe weather. Once again, it's including the Western Plains, including Colorado, New Mexico, and Oklahoma and Texas. That can either be called the Southwest or the Western Plains or the Southern Plains. But we have up to almost 7.5 million people under that slight risk for tomorrow. So not really too much more compared to yesterday. A little bit more because we are including St. Louis, we are including Springfield, Pueblo, Colorado, and Colorado Springs, and also including areas not too far, just a couple miles north, or just a little bit northeast of Albuquerque, just like 100 or 200 miles away, and also not too far from Amarillo, Texas, there from the Panhandle. Marginal risk is including 24 million people. You know why? We are including Chicago, Milwaukee, Kansas City, Wichita, and Madison, Wisconsin. Also, the tip of Indianapolis. Also including Muskegon, Miami, Oklahoma, areas near Norman, Oklahoma aren't too far from the marginal risk. So we do have a very widespread threat for the next coming days, which is exactly why we are talking about this multi-day threat. Because we're seeing multiple spotty storms. Obviously, where we have that bigger wind probability and hail probability, that's exactly where we have the slight risk. We do have a very widespread tornado probability, though. It's not actually for the southwestern plains. It's actually including the Midwest. We do have a 2% chance for 13 million people, so that's a lot more compared to today. It's including Kansas City, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, Aurora, Illinois, Overland Park, Kansas, and also Springfield, Missouri. So that's some pretty nice cities that are actually in that 2% chance. I will not rule out the possibility for Chicago being included in that 2% chance, and maybe even near Rockford we can maybe see a 2% chance. So obviously it has a couple updates to actually continue to become a bit more widespread there. But now let's go and check out now the satellite, or not the satellite imagery, the detailed radar. Then we'll take a look at the CAPE, the CAP, SCP, wind shear, and a lot more. Here we are taking a look at the NAM3CAM model here. As you see, we are going to be seeing multiple rows of severe weather and storms. So it's going to be multiple waves. So could be seeing storms up to maybe 4 o'clock and then another storm at 7 o'clock. That's going to be that threat for the Midwest. And then we have those very strong storms for the potential southwestern plains. I'll show that radar satellite imagery soon there. So don't worry, I'm not going to forget about that area. I'll be checking that radar region soon after this radar region. So multiple storms as well near the Kansas City area, near that Davenport area, and also near the Wisconsin Dells area. So we are seeing some nice storms, very widespread. And then these storms really start to blow up later this evening. As many people know, the best time for severe weather is in between up to 5 o'clock to possibly 8 o'clock is when you see that big range for severe weather. And that's going to be PM, not AM. You know why? That's because that's going to be near in the evening, and that's when we have the highest CAPE values, which is CAPE is the amount of energy in the atmosphere to produce storms, including storm relative helicity, overday heating, humidity. All that is in a CAPE. The higher the CAPE, the better. And that's when we have the highest CAPE. And it's also including we have a whole day of overday heating and that is exactly why we have the strongest storms in the evening. And you're seeing that potential nice storms near south central Kansas, as well as some very nice storms near St. Joseph, also near Wichita, and even not for portions of the border with Nebraska. So some nice widespread storms, and those will start to fall apart because they will cap out into the evening, which cap is the warm area loss, which we'll be talking about later today or later in the video. And then by tomorrow, we have the other severe weather threat, exactly like I said. Really strong storms for Illinois, some spotty semi-discrete storms likely for Missouri, and then those will head into the Indianapolis area, but they won't be too severe. I think the storms today could be slightly more severe, in my opinion, for the Midwest. But let's go and check out now the South Central here for the next 48 hours severe weather-wise. So as you see, we do have some strong storms developing for portions of Colorado. I do see a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings for Colorado to Kansas today. I do see that happening. We've had a lot, really, we've seen a lot of activity for Colorado for severe weather this year. We have a lot, especially this whole eastern half of Colorado has been extremely active for severe thunderstorms. We've had a lot of tornadoes in that area compared to average, so it's pretty active in that general western plain area or western United States. As you see, we're going to be seeing a big threat for Dodge City, a big threat for that little panhandle sticking out for Oklahoma. That very strong low pressure system to the south is going to bring all the energy. And we are going to be seeing a lot of Gulf moisture coming out here. So that's going to make it some perfect conditions for some nice severe thunderstorms. Obviously, not all of these will be supercells, but you could be seeing some supercells likely right here in this general area of Kansas, and maybe some storms that stick out into Oklahoma. We can have supercells, but that's why I'll be taking at the supercell composite parameter later in the video. And then those storms do fall apart into Kansas, and then you see some stronger storms developing later on in New Mexico and Colorado later tomorrow as well. Now let's go and check out now at the Cape values. So here we are looking at the Cape values. Like I said earlier in the video, the higher the Cape values, the better for, or the more likely for severe weather. So as you see, we are seeing some nice amounts of energy already starting off the early afternoon or noon for Central Time for these areas. Going to see up to 3,000 joules per kilogram, 3,200 joules per kilogram. So we are seeing some nice numbers here. Anything higher than really 1,800 is considered favorable for severe weather, but anything higher than 3,500 is considered high Cape. As we now get later in the evening, like I said early in the video, the more in the evening, the better and higher the Cape values are. And as you see, we are seeing over 4,000 joules per kilogram, 4,300, 4,600, and this is in exact areas where we can be seeing that severe thunderstorms today. So nice amounts of energy here, 4,600, but it all depends on the cap. If there's very high Cape and high cap, it's kind of useless. It's like really having a low pressure system in the tropics with extreme amounts of wind shear. Like, not going to happen. Really. Same thing here. It's just obviously a different scenario and different topic. As we now get into the evening hours, obviously that's when overnight, that's when the Cape dies down because the sun's not out. We're not seeing a lot of humidity. Obviously, the UV index will go down, so not going to be seeing that much energy. So you're still seeing some 2,000, getting close to 3,000. But that's obviously going to be in the areas where we're in the South Central, where we have a lot warmer temperatures overnight. And then the storms tomorrow, as they move a little bit more into the southern Midwest, we can possibly see near the Memphis area 4,000 joules per kilogram. And then as we get in the evening, we can possibly surpass 4,700, reaching that 5,000 joules per kilogram mark. So we aren't seeing limited amounts of energy. We are seeing unlimited amounts of energy, which checks the box for Cape. Now the thing is the CIN, the cap or the warm area loft. The higher the cap, the worse, which means for severe weather to develop, you need, in the higher atmosphere, you want cooler air. And then the surface, so this is possibly 10,000 feet in the atmosphere right here, you want to have cooler atmosphere. Let's go ahead and draw a cloud so you know this is the atmosphere. Right here is my cloud. You want cool air. And then the surface, so obviously sea level, you're going to want to see a warm surface, so that way we can see a lot of rotation, and that's how storms really develop. But a warm area loft is when we have a warm higher in the atmosphere and a cooler surface. That just does not fit. So that cap prevents severe thunderstorms from developing. And when you have a lot of wind shear, it's going to slow the process of severe storms developing, and that wind shear just takes it over and makes it fall apart. But when you have less cap and more wind shear, it is perfect for severe weather. It's just perfect scenario. So anything higher than negative 200 is considered a high cap. So you do not want anything higher than negative 200 if you want storms. So now that we got the explanation down, let's go and check out the numbers here. We have negative 82 here, negative 39. Right here, we're going to be seeing the storms for portions of Missouri, negative 90, negative 109, possibly negative 71. We are going to be seeing very high numbers. Don't get me wrong. We're going to be seeing a very nice cap where it will cap out for Texas, Oklahoma, and portions of Kansas later today. But as we continue to get closer in the evening, notice how those numbers go down. For Oklahoma, negative 125. Areas in Kansas, negative 64. Negative 84. So as you're seeing in a pattern with cap, you can see one area that sees very favorable conditions, and then drive an hour south, and you see cap numbers that are extremely high. Also going to be seeing negative 68, negative 100 for portions of the lower Mississippi River Basin. So nice cap numbers. Not looking like it's going to cap out until the evening, which is when we get negative 664 joules right here. So nice. This is when it's going to be extremely unfavorable for storms. As we now get into tomorrow, as you see, those are going to be the storms right here for portions of the south, for the southern Midwest. Negative 84, negative 78. So that's some nice numbers before it caps out once again. So that's how the cap works. As you see, it doesn't look like it's going to cap out. Now, the SRH, or storm relative helicity. Storm relative helicity, or helicity, is the amount of spin in the atmosphere. And the higher the spin in the atmosphere, the more favorable for storms. So, unlike cap, the higher the number here, the better. As you see, we're seeing 700, almost 853 meters per second squared of spin in the atmosphere, which is actually pretty nice. That's some really nice numbers. And that's going to be including South Dakota and Minnesota. But in the areas where we are expecting that big severe weather right here in the Kansas and Oklahoma area, 613 meters per second squared, 643 meters per second squared. Those are some nice numbers. So, obviously, we are seeing some nice amounts of spin in the atmosphere. In Minnesota, where we have the other slight risk, 520 meters per second squared of spin. So those are some nice numbers. Areas near Dodge City, 606 meters per second squared. So everything's adding up. Even for the Texas Panhandle in Oklahoma, 616 meters per second squared, 653 meters per second squared. And then tomorrow we have that also some nice numbers for the Midwest, 350 meters per second squared, even 600 and plus meters per second squared. So nice numbers for portions of the Midwest. So that's covering today and tomorrow. Now, this is the last thing we'll be taking a look at. The supercell composite parameter. This is the SCP, which is measuring the probability for supercells. Supercells bring in tornadoes, tight rotation, extremely large hail, and damaging winds. Anything higher than 25 on the SCP is considered high. And as we're starting the day, we're going to possibly see 35 on the SCP, even a 51. Extremely high numbers. And as we look at the SQT chart, we are seeing very high cap, negative 124, which is why we are only seeing a marginal severe weather threat. If it was lower cap, you would see maybe a tornado probability or high severe weather threat. But we do actually have on the STP, on the significant tornado parameter on the FIX, a 7.3, but on CIN-wise, it's 0.0. So that's kind of an example of how cap can really stop a storm. On the area near Dodge City, where we have a 25, negative 25, we have a no hazard because this is where things cap out now. But as we get later in the evening today, we have a 28, 29 on the SCP, so that is considered high cap. And look, we have a potential hazard of a tornado. You know why? Because we are seeing very low cap. Look at this cap, CIN, negative 44. Where we had the SCP of negative 51, we had a cap up to negative 208. So this is showing you how cap can really stop a storm or increase a storm depending on how high or low it is. As you see, we have a 3.2 in the STP, which is obviously around a lower probability for a tornado, but it's still higher than a 0. And then tomorrow we won't be seeing too high of a probability for supercells, a 16, double digits really. That's kind of it for tomorrow. And last thing we'll be looking at here for today is the wind shear. Unlike tropics, wind shear is very favorable for severe weather. The higher the shear, the better. Everybody remembers the Easter outbreak, and you know what happened with the Easter outbreak? We had one of the strongest low-level jets this year, and that brought a ton of storms for these areas. Actually, no, this is actually not the area. A ton of storms for this area right here. That's exactly where we saw the storms in front of that shear. Same thing here. We're obviously not the same thing here, but we are seeing a nice wind shear flow here, and that's going to be for the northern plains. We do have a slight risk today, and then as we get into tomorrow and later today, we have a little bit of wind shear for portions of where we had that slight risk. So everything's adding up: the shear, the cap, the cape, the SEP, the energy, the storm relative helicity. Everything's adding up. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Please be sure to obviously subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button and the post notification icon. So we're continuing to monitor the severe weather event or multi-day threat. Hope you guys did enjoy the video, and bye guys.